Lyra's hands were covered in grease. Again, the third time today, she wiped them on her already dirty work pants and crawled deeper under the broken cargo hauler. Her father Owen always said she was too curious for her own good. But someone had to figure out why this thing kept leaking coolant everywhere. "Pass me the small wrench," she called. Out, Owen slid the tool across the floor of their repair shop. Forge District wasn't the prettiest part of Station Harmony, but it was home. Ships came and went, people needed things fixed. Life went on in the belly of the massive space station that housed over 2 million beings from 40 different species. Lyra was 12 years old and already knew her way around most engine types. Her mother had died 3 years ago, and working with her father helped fill the empty spaces. Tools made sense, problems had solutions. Grief didn't work that way. "Got it," she said, tightening the loose connection. The leak stopped. "Done." She slid out from under the hauler just as the entire station seemed to hum with unusual energy. People were moving faster in the corridors outside. Voices carried that edge of nervousness that came with important visitors. "What's going on?" Lyra asked. Owen checked his data pad. His face went a bit pale. "Trade Summit starts today. I forgot." "So what? So the Dream Queen is here." "Queen Asher herself." Lyra had heard stories about the Draken. Everyone had. They looked like the dragons from old Earth. Stories, all scales and wings and fire. Their empire controlled 12 systems. They didn't make friends, they made deals, or they made war. "Why does she scare everyone so much?" Lyra asked. Owen set down his tools carefully. "Because she survived 200 years by being the strongest, the meanest, and the most ruthless leader in known space. Dream don't get to be queens by being nice. 200 years old, that's today." "What?" Lyra pointed at his data pad where a news feed scrolled past. "Look, Queen Asher 200th hatching day coincides with Summit arrival. That means today's her birthday." Owen shrugged. "I doubt she cares. Dream don't celebrate those things, too busy conquering." But Lyra couldn't stop thinking about it. 200 years old and nobody celebrating. That seemed wrong, really wrong. Her mother used to say everyone deserved to feel special at least one day a year, even people who seemed like they didn't need it, especially people who seemed like they didn't need it. The rest of the day dragged on. They fixed 2 more haulers and a broken environmental suit. Owen went to grab dinner from the food court. Lyra stayed behind, supposedly to clean up the shop. Instead, she pulled up the station directory on the old computer terminal. Finding information wasn't hard if you knew where to look. Her mother had been a data analyst before getting sick. She taught Lyra how systems worked. Queen Ashira was staying in the diplomatic wing, level 47. Section B, maximum security. Lyra chewed her lip. This was stupid. This was really stupid, but the thought wouldn't leave her alone. 200 years and nobody had ever celebrated with her. She looked at the small kitchen area in the back of the shop. They had flour, sugar, eggs, chocolate powder. Her mother's recipe was still saved on her personal pad, the one she carried everywhere. Before she could talk herself out of it, Lyra started baking. The cake wasn't fancy, just simple chocolate with vanilla frosting. She only had basic food coloring, so she used blue to write the message on top in slightly wobbly letters. "Happy 200th hatching day, Queen Asher." It looked humble, kind of small. Definitely not worthy of a queen who Commanded fleets, but it was made with care. It had to count for something. Owen came back with food containers and stopped dead in his tracks. What is that? A cake? I can see it's a cake. Why did you make a cake? It's Queen Ashar's birthday, hatching day, whatever they call it. Owen's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, panic. He settled on panic. Lyra, no, absolutely not. You cannot take a cake to the Dream Queen. Why not? Because there are protocols, security, diplomatic regulations, because she's dangerous and powerful and doesn't want some random human kid showing up with baked goods. Everyone deserves a birthday cake. She's not everyone. She's a dragon who's killed more people than you've met in your entire life. Lyra carefully covered the cake with a clear container. Mom said being strong doesn't mean being alone. Maybe nobody ever told Queen Asher that. Owen ran his hand through his hair, a gesture that meant he was trying not to yell. Your mother also would have wanted you to stay safe and not do incredibly reckless things. Mom died alone in a hospital room, even though she was surrounded by people who loved her. She said the worst part wasn't being sick, it was when people stopped treating her like a person and started treating her like a condition. That stopped Owen cold. They didn't talk about that much. The end, how their bright, funny, brilliant mother had faded behind pain and medication, and everyone's fear of saying the wrong thing. Lyra picked up the cake. I'm taking this to her. You can come with me or not. Owen stared at his daughter, 12 years old and more stubborn than physics. She had her mother's eyes, her mother's heart. Sometimes that scared him more than any dragon ever could. If we get arrested, he said quietly, I'm blaming you. Deal. They left the shop and headed for the lifts station. Harmony hummed around them with the noise of 1,000 different lives intersecting somewhere 47 levels up. Queen sat alone on her birthday. That was about to change. Queen Asher hated these summits. 3 hours of listening to trade delegates argue about terror, percentages, and shipping routes. Her wings ache from being folded in the too small conference room. The chairs weren't built for Drake bodies, but nobody dared suggest she needed accommodations that would imply weakness. She signed the last document with a claw that could slice through steel. The delegates practically fell over themselves, thanking her for her time. They feared her. Good. Fear was reliable. Fear kept empires running. Her advisor, Rennell, waited outside the conference room. He was old for a Draken, scarred from his own fights for dominance decades ago. His wings had a torn membrane that never quite healed. Right, the mineral rights agreement is finalized, Ashur said. Tell the fleet we leave tomorrow. Yes, my queen. You be attending the evening reception. No, she didn't elaborate. She never had. 2 queens didn't explain themselves. Rendell bowed and left. Asher walked through the diplomatic corridors alone. Guards from various species pressed themselves against walls as she passed. A human child clutched her father's leg and stared with wide eyes. Asher was used to that look. Monster, predator, threat, all accurate. Her quarters were at least spacious. The station had cleared an entire section for her and her entourage. She dismissed the guards and locked the door behind her. Finally, alone, Ashura moved to the window that looked out into space. Stars scattered across the void like broken glass. Somewhere out there was her home world, the nest where she'd hatched alongside 23 siblings that she'd killed them all. That was the Dreen way, hatchlings. Fought from the moment their eyes opened, the strong survived the weak. Became food, Asher had been the strongest, she'd torn through her. Siblings with teeth and claws and fire. At 40 years old, still practically a child by Dreen standards, she claimed the throne over their bones. Everyone celebrated her coronation. Nobody mourned her brothers and sisters. They've been weak, they deserve death. Asher told herself this for 160 years. Most days she even believed it. She pulled up her personal files on a data screen. There it was, hatching date 200. Years ago today, she'd broken through her shell and immediately had to fight for her life. Every year on this date, she remembered that moment, the fear, the hunger, the desperate knowledge that she had to kill or die. Dreen didn't celebrate hatching days. They were reminders of vulnerability, of the weakness that had to be shed like old scales. But sometimes late at night in empty quarters far from home, Asher wondered what it would be like to remember her hatching as something good, something worth celebrating, that she'd seen humans do it. Birthdays, they called them. They gathered and ate sweet foods and gave gifts. They laughed about getting older instead of treating age as a countdown to death. It seemed foolish. Weak seemed nice. Asher shook her head. These thoughts were dangerous. She was a queen. She'd conquered 12 systems. She brokered peace through strength and maintained it through fear. She didn't need birthday cakes or friendly gatherings. She needed power, control, respect. But not one person in 200 years had ever simply been happy she existed. At a sharp knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Annoyed, Asher called out permission to enter. Probably Rendell, with some last-minute treaty clause. Instead, 2 Drake guards, practically dragging a human man and a small human child. The girl was holding something in a clear container. The man looked terrified but determined. "My queen," one guard said, his voice tight with confusion. "This child claims she has something for you. We tried to turn her away, but she threatened to activate the fire suppression system if we didn't let her through the maintenance tunnels. My queen, she knows them." Asher stared at the girl, maybe 12 years old in human terms. Messy dark hair, were clothes covered in grease stains. She wasn't crying or shaking. She looked Asher straight in the eye, bold for prey. "What do you want, child?" The girl stepped forward. The man tried to hold her back, but she shrugged him off. She held up the container. "I made you a cake for your birthday, hatching day. I know it's today." Ashara's mind went blank. In 200 years of existence, she'd experienced almost everything: battle, victory, loss, pain, triumph. But this, a human child bringing her cake. "Explain yourself." The girl's voice was steady. "My name is Lyra. My dad and I fix ships in Forge District. I saw the news that today is your 200th hatching day. Nobody should be alone on their birthday, so I made this." She set the container on a table and opened it. Inside was a small chocolate cake with white frosting. Blue letters spelled out a message: "Happy 200th hatching day, Queen Asher." Asher moved closer. The cake was simple, humble, the kind of thing that cost almost nothing to make. But the letters were careful, each one precisely formed. Someone had taken time with this. "Why?" Ashara's voice came out rougher than she intended. Lyra smiled, not the fake smile of diplomats, not the terrified grimace of the conquered, a real smile. Because everyone deserves to feel special on a birthday, even queens. Maybe especially queens. I bet nobody ever makes you cakes, something hot, pressed behind Ashera's eyes. Sensation she didn't recognize at first. It had been so long, over a century, since she'd felt anything like this. Tears she was crying, the mighty queen. Asher, conqueror of systems, who'd killed her own siblings and led armies, and made entire planets kneel, was crying. Because a 12-year-old human made her a cake. No one, Asher whispered, has ever celebrated my birth. The guards didn't know what to do. Their queen was crying. Queens didn't cry, especially not Drake. And queens who'd built empires on the bones of their enemies. Lyra didn't seem shocked, though. She just pulled out 2 small plates from her backpack and a knife. Do you want to share it? The cake? I mean, it's better with someone else. Asher couldn't speak. Her throat felt tight. 200 years of locked away feelings were trying to break through at once. She managed a small nod. Owen stepped forward carefully. Your Majesty, my daughter meant no disrespect. If we've broken protocol, we apologize and we'll leave. Stay. Ashara's voice cracked. On the word, she cleared her throat. Everyone else, leave us. The guards hesitated. Rendell appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of confusion and concern. My queen is this wise? Asher turned her full gaze on him, even with tears still wet on her scales. She was terrifying. I said leave. They left. The door closed. Asher stood alone with this child and her nervous father. The cake sat between them like a bridge across species and power and 200 years of isolation. Lyra cut 3 pieces. She handed one to Asher on a small plate. It's chocolate, my mom's recipe. She used to make it every year for my birthday before she died. Asher took the plate carefully. Her claws could shred starship holes. She had to concentrate to hold the small dish without breaking it. Your mother is dead 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Lyra looked up at her. Did you ever know your mom? The question was innocent, childish. It cut deeper than any blade. Asher sat down slowly, her massive form settling onto the floor. She gestured for them to sit as well. No, Drake and hatchlings kill each other after birth. The strongest survives. I never met my mother. She left us in the nest and never returned. That's our way. Owen looked horrified. Lyra just looked sad. That sounds lonely. It's survival. Survival isn't the same as living. Asher stared at this child. How could someone so young understand something she'd spent 2 centuries avoiding? She took a small bite of the cake. The sweetness surprised her. Dream food was mostly protein, raw meat, survival rations. During campaigns, this was different. This tasted like someone cared about making something nice. Why did you do this? Asher asked again. You don't know me. Your species has every reason to fear mine, yet you brought me a cake. Lyra ate a bite of her own piece. My mom used to say that being strong doesn't mean being alone. She was wrong about that, though. She was the strongest person I ever knew, and she still wanted us with her, even at the end when she was so sick. She held my hand and said, the worst part wasn't dying, it was thinking she'd be forgotten. I remember her every day. So does Dad. We talk about her, we make her recipes, we tell stories about the funny things she did. She's not here, but she's not forgotten either. Asher felt something crack inside her chest. I don't remember my siblings' names. I don't even know if They had names, we were just numbered. Hatchling 1 through 24, I was 17. The silence that followed was heavy. Owen looked like he wanted to say something comforting but didn't know how. Lyra just scooted closer to Asher. What do you want your name to be? Not Queen. Stuff, just you. Nobody had ever asked Asher that. She was given her throne name at coronation. Before that she was just 17, a number, a rank, a survivor. I don't know, Asher admitted quietly. That's okay, maybe you can think about it. Names are important, they mean someone sees you as a person, not just a job or a thing. They sat in silence for a while eating cake. It was strange. Asher had attended 1,000 formal dinners with leaders and diplomats. Everyone performing, everyone strategic. This was just sitting, eating, existing together without agenda. It was the best meal she'd ever had. Tell me about your mother. Asher said that. Lyra's face lit up. She talked for an hour about how her mother loved bad jokes, how she could fix any computer system but couldn't cook anything except this one cake recipe, how she sang off key in the shower, how she made every birthday special even when it had no money. Owen added stories too, his voice warm with memory and grief mixed together. They talked about loss like it was something that hurt, but also something that mattered, like loving someone was worth the pain of losing them. Asher listened. She'd never heard people talk like this. In her empire, weakness was death. Emotion was liability. You conquered or you were conquered. There was no room for vulnerability. But sitting here with these humans and their simple chocolate cake, Asher realized something terrifying. She'd spent 200 years being strong, being feared, being powerful. That she'd never spend a single day being happy. I have advisors, Asher said slowly. I have soldiers and diplomats and entire planets that bow to my name, but I don't have friends. I don't have family. I don't have anyone who would make me a cake. Lyra smiled. You do now if you want to be friends. It's okay if you don't. I know you're busy being a queen and conquering stuff, but if you ever want to just talk or share cake or whatever, we're in Forge District Shop 17. Kind of ironic, right? You were hatchling 17. Asher laughed, actually laughed. The sound surprised her. When was the last time she'd laughed? She couldn't remember. I would like that, Asher said. The words felt strange in her mouth, admitting she wanted something, needed something very much. Owen cleared his throat. Your Majesty, we should probably leave before your guards think we've assassinated you. Asher stood. She was massive. Compared to them, she could kill them both without trying. Instead, she carefully placed her hand on Lyra's shoulder, gentle, the way you touch something precious. Thank you, Lyra, for the cake, for remembering my birth, for showing me that strength doesn't have to mean being alone. Happy birthday, Lyra said, grinning. Happy birthday, Owen echoed. After they left, Asher stood alone in her quarters. The empty cake plate sat on the table. Blue frosting still spelled out that impossible message. For the first time in 200 years, Queen Asher felt something other than the weight of her crown. She felt seen. News traveled fast on station Harmony. By morning, everyone in Forge District knew that the human mechanics kid had somehow gotten past security to deliver cake to the Drake and Queen. By afternoon, the story had spread to every level of the station. Most people thought it was a joke. Some thought it was a suicide attempt. A few thought Maybe humans were braver or crazier than previously believed. Owen thought his daughter was going to give him a heart attack. 3 different news channels have contacted us, he said, staring at his message screen. 4 diplomatic offices want statements, and someone from Galactic Geographic wants to interview you about cross-PC's cultural exchange. Lyra was eating breakfast and reading a book about engine repair. Just tell them no, it's not that simple. You gave a cake to the most powerful military leader in known space. People have questions like what, like why. You're still alive. Lyra shrugged. She liked the cake. Owen rubbed his temples. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw 1,000 ways last night could have gone wrong. Asher could have killed them, imprisoned them, started an incident that destabilized human-dream relations. Instead, she'd cried and eaten cake and thanked them. The universe made no sense anymore. That a knock on the shop door interrupted his spiral of worry. Owen opened it, expecting reporters. Instead, he found 4 Draken guards in full armor and Rendell, the Queen's advisor. Owen's heart stopped. This was it. They'd come to arrest them, execute them, make an example. Reno bowed slightly. Owen of Forge District, I bring a message from Queen Ashera. She requests your services as her personal mechanic during her extended stay on Station Harmony. Extended stay. The Queen has decided to remain for 3 additional months to observe human cultural practices. She requires someone familiar with station systems and human technology. You come. Highly recommended. By who? By your daughter. Rendell's expression was unreadable. The Queen has also requested that Lyra be permitted to visit her quarters at any time with appropriate security clearance. Owen blinked. I'm sorry, what? The Queen was quite clear. Your daughter is to be granted diplomatic status as a cultural liaison. She may come and go freely. Lyra appeared behind Owen, still holding her breakfast. Cool. When can I visit? Renee looked at her with something that might have been respect or might have been disbelief. This afternoon, if you wish. The Queen has cleared her schedule. After they left, Owen sat down heavily on a workbench. This is insane. It's nice, Lyra corrected. She was lonely. Now maybe she won't be. That afternoon, Lyra returned to the diplomatic quarters. The guards recognized her and let her pass without question. She found Asher standing by the window, staring out at the stars. You came back, Ashera said softly. I said I would. Friends do that. Asher turned. In daylight she looked different, still massive, still powerful, but something in her eyes had changed, less guarded, less alone. I've been thinking about what you said about names, about being more than just a title or a number. Yeah, I want to understand how humans do this, how you maintain connections without seeing them as weakness, how you celebrate instead of just surviving. Lyra set her backpack down. She brought supplies. Okay, first lesson in being friends. We hang out and do normal stuff, not Queen stuff, just people stuff. I don't know how to do people stuff. That's okay, I'll teach you. They spent the afternoon talking. Lyra told stories about growing up on the station, about her favorite spots in Forge District, about the time she accidentally locked herself in a cargo bay and had to use emergency protocols to get out, about her mother's terrible singing and her father's dad jokes. Asher listened like every word mattered. She asked questions, simple ones. What's your favorite color? What food do you like best? What makes you laugh? Nobody had ever asked her these things. In the Dream Empire, preferences were irrelevant. You ate what sustained you. You wore what proclaimed rank. You did what increased your power. But Lyra's questions opened doors Asher didn't know existed. She tried to answer. Blue. Maybe the color of Earth's sky. In pictures, she didn't have a favorite food because she'd never thought about food as anything but fuel and laughter. She'd laughed last night for the first time in memory. Your turn, Lyra said. Tell me about something you actually like, not queen things, you things. Asher thought hard. I like flying, not military formations or patrol patterns. Just flying high enough that the world below is just shapes and colors. It's quiet except for the wind. That sounds beautiful. It's the only time I feel free. Lyra nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. My mom used to take me to the observation deck late at night. We'd watch ships come and go and make up stories about where they'd been. She said even trapped on a station, we could travel in our minds. She sounded wise. She was also stubborn and funny and sometimes annoying, but mostly she was just mom. That was enough. Asher settled onto the floor, folding her wings carefully. In my empire, parents abandon their young. The strong survive alone, but you speak of your mother with such love. Even though she's gone, how do you not see that as weakness? Because love isn't weakness. Missing someone isn't weakness. It just means they mattered. And things that matter are worth protecting, worth remembering, worth the pain we protect through fear. Do you, though, or do people just obey because they're scared? That's not the same as being protected. Protection means someone cares if you're okay. The words hit Asher like physical blows. 200 years of certainty crumbling under simple truth from a 12-year-old. My empire, she started, then stopped. I've conquered 12 systems. Millions of beings live under dream rule. I tell myself we brought order, stability, peace through strength, but nobody in those systems would cry if I died. They'd probably celebrate. Lyra moved closer. She was tiny compared to Asherah. Fragile. Human lifespans were so short compared to Dream, yet somehow this child had more courage than entire armies. Then maybe it's time to give them a reason to want you alive, not because they're afraid, but because they actually like you. I don't know how. You start small, like right now you're learning to be friends with me. That's step one. Asher felt that strain sensation again, the warmth behind her eyes, the tightness in her chest. You would befriend a monster. You're not a monster. You're someone who's been alone so long you forgot there's another way. But you can learn. You're learning right now, for the first time in 200 years. Asher believed that change was possible. Not through conquest, not through fear, but through connection, through simple moments shared with someone who saw past the crown to the person underneath. Thank you, Ashira whispered, for seeing me. Lyra grinned. That's what friends do. 3 months changed everything. Asher became a regular presence in 4 district. At first people scattered. When she approached, a dragon walking through the maintenance corridors was the stuff of nightmares, but Lyra walked beside her, chatting about ordinary things, and slowly people realized the queen wasn't hunting, she was visiting. Dad Owen's repair shop became an unofficial meeting place. Asher insisted on learning how human technology worked. She had engineers in her empire, but she'd never personally understood the systems. Now she spent hours watching Owen repair cooling systems and navigation computers. You don't have to do this, Owen said one day, elbow deep in a broken thruster assembly. You're a queen. Asher handed him the tool he needed before he asked. She'd learned to anticipate Queen's command, but I never learned to build, to fix, to make something better instead of just conquering it. It's honest work. It's important work. I'm beginning to understand that power isn't just control, it's knowing how things function, how to help them work better. Word spread through the station. Drake and Queen was changing. She attended community gatherings in Forge District. She learned names of ordinary people. She asked questions and actually listened to answers. She even smiled sometimes, which was terrifying at first but became almost normal. Randall grew increasingly concerned. He found Asher one evening in the shop covered in hydraulic fluid, laughing at one of Owen's terrible jokes. My queen, the council demands your return. They say you've abandoned your duties. Ashara's good mood vanished. I've attended every required diplomatic meeting. I've signed every treaty. What duties have I abandoned? The ones that matter. Expansion plans, military exercises, the conquest of the Outer Rim systems. We have 12 systems already. Why do we need more? Renat looked shocked. Because we're then we conquer. It's our nature. Maybe our nature is wrong. The shop went silent. Lyra and Owen exchanged glances. This was the moment they'd been worried about. Ash Era had been changing, but she still had an empire to rule, an empire built on very different values. The Rendell's voice dropped low. You're talking heresy, my queen. Our entire civilization is built on strength, through dominance, built on fear. Asher corrected, and I'm tired of it. Tired of ruling through terror, tired of being alone at the top of a pyramid of corpses. This is that child's influence. This is my choice. Asher stood to her full height, wings spreading slightly, even covered in grease and hydraulic fluid. She was magnificent. I've spent 3 months learning what it means to connect instead of conquer, to build instead of destroy. I've learned more from a 12-year-old human than from 200 years of war. The council will not accept this. Then the council can challenge me directly. Rendell bowed stiffly and left. The door hissed shut behind him. Asher slumped against the workbench, suddenly looking tired. That went well, Owen said dryly. He's right, though. I can't just abandon my empire. Millions of beings depend on Drake and stability. Even if they hate us, if I change too much too fast, there will be civil war. Lyra climbed onto a stool so she could look Asher in the eye. Then don't chain everything at once. Start small like you did with us. How? What if you went home and just tried being nicer? Like, instead of threatening people, maybe ask them how they're doing instead of taking stuff from conquered planets. Maybe trade fairly. Asher laughed, but it was bitter. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. You're powerful enough that nobody can stop you from being kind. That's the weird thing about being in charge. You can do whatever you want, so why on good things? Owen nodded. She's right. You've proven you can conquer. You've got nothing left to prove through violence. But showing mercy, showing growth, that takes a different kind of strength. Asher was quiet for a long time. Outside the shop station, harmony hummed with life. Thousands of beings from dozens of species living together, not through Domination, but through cooperation. It wasn't perfect, there were conflicts and problems, but people tried to work together. I want to try, Asher said. Finally, I want to take what I've learned here and change my empire, make it about more than fear. They might not follow you, Owen warned, some won't. There will be resistance, possibly rebellion, but I'm strong enough to survive it. The question is whether I'm strong enough to try. Lyra hopped down from her stool and hugged Ashara's leg. The closest she could reach. You are, I know you are. The next week was chaos. Asher made arrangements to return home, but she also sent messages ahead. New policies, changes to how conquered systems would be governed, reduction in military patrols, opening of trade, negotiations instead of resource extraction. The Dream Council responded with fury. How dare she weaken the empire? How dare she show softness to lesser species? Several nobles called for her removal. Asher responded by challenging them to single combat, all of them at once if necessary. Nobody took her up on it. On her last day at Station Harmony, Asher stood in the repair shop one final time. Oh, it closed early. It was just the three of them. I don't know if this will work, Asher admitted. I might fail. The empire might tear itself apart. I might have to fight everyone I've ever commanded, but you're trying, Lyra said. That's what matters. You're not just staying the same because it's easier. Will you remember me if this goes badly? Owen smiled. You brought a Dragon Queen to tears with a chocolate cake. Yeah, we'll remember you. Asher pulled a small data chip from her pocket. This has a communication code. Private, just for you. If you ever need anything at all, I'm here. Lyra took the chip carefully. Same for you. If being a queen gets too hard and you need to talk to someone who will tell you the truth, call me. You're 12. And I made you cry with cake. I think that proves age doesn't matter when it comes to friendship. Asher laughed, that real laugh that she'd learned over these 3 months. You're right, as usual. They said their goodbyes. Ashara's fleet departed the next morning. Lyra watched from the observation deck as the massive ships jumped to hyperspace. Think she'll be okay? Lyra asked. Owen put his arm around his daughter. I think she'll try, and sometimes that's enough. In the Dream flagship, Queen Asher sat alone in her quarters, but this time the loneliness felt different. She wasn't isolated, she was just far away from friends. That was a distance that could be crossed. She activated her communication system and began drafting a galaxy-wide announcement. Changes were coming to the Dream Empire, and they started with a simple truth sheet learned from a child with a cake. Everyone deserved to feel like they mattered. 6 months later, Lyra turned 13. That she didn't expect much. Birthdays were nice but quiet since her mother died. Usually just her and Owen, maybe a few neighbors from Forge District. Cake, presents, stories about mom, simple and good. But when she woke up that morning, the entire station was buzzing with unusual activity. Owen was already up, wearing his best clothes. He never wore those unless something important was happening. What's going on? Lyra asked, stumbling into the kitchen. Owen grinned. You have a visitor coming. A very important visitor. She sent word 3 days ago but swore me to secrecy. Who? The communication panel beeped. Owen answered it, and suddenly a dozen station officials were asking for landing clearance, security protocols, diplomatic arrangements. snorts the Dream fleet had arrived. Queen Asher was requesting permission to dock. Lyra's heart jumped. She talked to Asher regularly over the past months through their private channel, but actually seeing her again, that was different. By afternoon, the diplomatic section was full of activity, but Asher didn't go there. Instead, her shuttle landed the Forge District public dock. She emerged alone, wearing simpler armor than usual, her wings folded neatly. She looked nervous. Lyra ran to meet her. "You came, I promised I would. It's your birthday. Nobody should be alone on their birthday." Owen appeared behind his daughter, smiling. "Welcome back, Your Majesty. Please just Asher, at least here, at least with friends." The words still sounded strange coming from her. "But good, really good." Asher reached into a bag she carried. "I brought gifts, and I tried to make something myself." She pulled out a cake container. Inside was a chocolate cake with frosting. It was lopsided, the letters spelling happy 13th birthday. Lyra were wobbly, but it was made with care. "You made this?" Lyra asked, delighted. "I had to try 17 times. Baking is harder than combat, but I remembered what you taught me. It's not about perfection, it's about showing someone they matter." They set up in the shop's back room, but more people arrived. Neighbors from Forge District, friends from school, even some of the station officials who'd gotten to know Asher during her previous stay. The small celebration grew into something bigger. Asher seemed uncomfortable at first. Crowds meant potential threats in her mind, but Lyra stayed close, introducing her to everyone, not as Queen Asher the Conqueror, just as Asher, her friend. People brought food. Someone had music playing. Kids from Lyra's school asked Asher questions about flying and space battles and what it was like being a dragon. She answered honestly, without ego, without the walls she'd built for 2 centuries. Owen pulled out an old photo album. Pictures of Lyra's mother. Stories flowed easily. Now the pain was still there, but softer. Asher listened to tales of this woman she'd never met, but who'd somehow taught her daughter to change a queen's life. "She would have liked you," Owen said to Asher. "She always said the bravest thing wasn't fighting, it was choosing to stay open even when the world hurt you." "I'm learning that," Asher admitted slowly. "It's hard to undo. 200 years of conditioning. How's the Empire handling the changes?" Ashara's expression grew serious. "Not well. 3 noble houses rebelled. I had to fight them, but this time after victory I didn't execute the survivors. I offer them a choice: accept the new way or leave Dream space entirely. What do they choose?" 2 houses left, 1 stayed. "It's a start. The conquered systems are adjusting too. Some are angry. They don't trust that we've changed, but others are cautiously hopeful. We've established actual trade agreements, equal partnerships. It's complicated and messy and nothing like the old order. But for the first time in my reign, I received a message from one of our subject planets. They thank me not out of fear, not because they had to. They actually thank me for treating them fairly." Ashara's voice wavered. "I didn't know what to do with that." Lyra smiled. "You say you're welcome and then keep doing better." The party went late into station. Evening, people cycled through, paying respects, sharing stories, bringing gifts. Asher watched it all with wonder. This was what community looked like, what connection felt like. Not subjects and rulers, just people existing together. As things wound down, Lyra found Asher standing by the observation window. The Queen looked tired but content. "Thank you for coming," Lyra said. "This is the best birthday I've had since Mom died. Thank you for inviting me into your life. You changed everything for me. You know, one cake, one moment of kindness, and suddenly 200 years of certainty crumbled. Was it worth it? The changes, the fighting?" Asher considered this carefully. "Ask me. In another 100 years, right now, it's hard, really hard, but I sleep better. I don't wake up wondering if today is the day someone finally defeats me. I wake up wondering what I can build instead of what I need to defend." That sounds nice. It's terrifying, but yes, it's nice. Owen joined them, carrying the last pieces of cake. "Before everyone leaves, I wanted to say something. Both of you," he looked at his daughter, "Lyra, you've grown up too fast since your mother died. You've been strong and brave and kind even when the world wasn't kind back. Your mom would be so proud of who you're becoming." Then he turned to Asher. "And you, I won't pretend I wasn't terrified when my daughter decided to befriend a dragon queen, but watching you change, watching you try, watching you choose growth over certainty, that's been remarkable. Thank you for trusting us with your journey." Asher bowed her head. "Thank you for showing me there was another path, for teaching me that strength can build instead of destroy." As the night ended and Asher prepared to leave, Lyra hugged her goodbye. The Queen carefully returned the embrace, mindful of her size and strength. "Will you come back?" Lyra asked. "Every year for your birthday, if you'll have me. Deal. And you have to keep working on your baking skills. That cake was pretty lumpy." Asher laughed. "I'll practice. Fair warning though, my kitchen staff is suffering through a lot of failed attempts." Weeks later, Lyra received a message. It was a photo from Asherah. The Queen stood in her throne room, surrounded by her advisors and guards. They were all eating cake, badly frosted, slightly burnt cake that Asher had made herself. The caption read, "Started a new tradition. Everyone gets their hatching day celebrated now. It's mandatory. They hate it, but they're learning. Thank you for showing me that power isn't just what you can take, it's what you can give. Your friend always." Asher. Lyra saved the photo. Someday, when she was older, she'd probably tell this story to her own kids about how a simple chocolate cake changed a queen's heart and started an empire, learning to celebrate life instead of just surviving it. But for now, she just smiled and sent a message back. "Happy every day, Asher. You deserve them all." In the Draken flagship, Queen Ashiro read those words and felt something she'd never experienced before. Peace, not the peace of conquest or fear or submission, but the peace of knowing she was seen, known, valued, not for her power or her throne or her victories, just for being herself. And that was worth more than all 12 systems combined.